we reference is docket 0800001901. If I'm not sure in your comments, if I need clarification, I may ask you questions, and that won't eat into your 3 minutes. So while we're here, you'll see here up on the screen, this is the page that starts this particular docket that we're here to get feedback on. And what you'll see is that this docket covers 12 different chapters. So because it covers so many chapters, I do ask that if you can, to please reference which one you're talking towards. And I'll also be recording the meeting to make sure that I don't miss anything in your comments. So as an example, if you're interested in talking about the Opportunity Scholarship, it would be 080113. If you're interested in talking about rules governing thoroughness, it's 080203. Based on the feedback I've received, I believe most of you are here to talk about our Idaho content standards, and those standards are in 080203. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between standards and curriculum. So these are the standards, and they're available from the State Board of Education's website that are incorporated by reference into IDAPA 080203. And you can see there that they cover a large range of subject areas, from arts and humanities all the way down to science and social studies. We even have college and career readiness competencies within our standards. What standards do is they indicate, based on grade range, with a few exceptions, what students should know at a specific grade range. So this is an example here of reading standards for foundational skills, grades 3 through 5. And you'll see the first column is for students in grade 3, and it goes through, and then grade 4 and grade 5. So students should know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. So it's very broad. What curriculum is what school districts choose in order to teach, or the learning materials they use in order to teach the students the standards. And the curriculum is picked at the local level. So the state board does not mandate, nor is it in this rule, what curriculum schools or teachers have to use. So here's an example of our grade 3 mathematics standards. So you'll see here, so as an example, students develop an understanding of the meanings of multiplication and division of whole numbers through activities and problem solving, equal size groups, and on and on. So it doesn't say how a school or teacher needs to teach those concepts, just that by the end of grade 3, those students should know those concepts. What is in this rule is a process for a state level curricular materials adoption committee. And there are requirements on who needs to be on that committee, which are educators, parents, and other stakeholders from around the state. So if you wanted to talk about that process in the sense of curriculum, that would be relevant to this rule. But if it's about textbooks in particular, it is not here. So as much as you can, I would ask that you try and keep your comments to have them be as specific as possible. And then also that everybody is respectful of everybody else's opinions. So I'm going to ask that there's no clapping, cheering, or jeering. And that when you come up and speak, that you address your comments to me. It's not about addressing the crowd, but it's about me being able to collect your comments and take them back to the state board so that they can evaluate evaluate any changes to this rule between the proposed and pending stages. If you have questions, I am happy to answer them.
May I ask how these comments are being recorded? Are you taking notes as the gentleman described? How?
So I have a recorder, and I will be taking furious notes as well. So, yes ma'am.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. We only have 3 minutes. I want to refer to that. Is it okay if I just, it's kind of on a broad spectrum.
I won't send anybody away if you don't refer to the chapter. It just makes it much easier to be able to identify where the changes, where you'd like the changes to be. So, with that, I will ask that you come up here to the podium, where this lovely speaker will be, or microphone. State your name clearly for the record. And then when, at the end of your 3 minutes, I'll ask you to wrap up.
Water City.
Go on. No, you don't need to indicate your city. Yes, ma'am?
Will there be any discourse and answers given to if we have questions? You know, especially as speakers.
As time allows, we can have some of that, but I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. So if it's simple questions and things like that, we certainly can talk about it. But if it's something that's going to be a longer conversation, I would just ask that you stay until afterwards, after everyone's had an opportunity to talk. Then we can have that conversation. So the first person I have, and I'll apologize, I'm pretty good at butchering names. I don't mean to. The first person who's indicated they want to speak is Alan Marsh.
It's Alan Marsh. The Obama administration introduced Common Core in 2010, imposing burdensome new standards and tests. Over the past few years, states have begun to reclaim their authority to set standards. As of last year, approximately a quarter of participants.
Could you please speak in the microphone?
He's trying.
I think it'll, there you go.
Should I start over?
Yes.
The Obama administration introduced Common Core in 2010, imposing burdensome new standards and tests. Over the past few years, states that rapidly joined the Common Core have begun to reclaim their authority to set educational standards. As of last year, approximately a quarter of participating states have either downgraded their participation or withdrawn completely from the new testing consortium introduced by Common Core. There are at least 10 major problems with Common Core, and one that it includes overt philosophical presentations on numerous issues. In a Common Core aligned textbook, 3 chapters, 67 pages, are devoted to Islam. There is nothing similar for Christianity or Judaism. It has lessons on the Quran and the 5 pillars of Islam. Everything is in a positive light. There is nothing about Islam's expansion by military force or its current terrorism. According to Common Core, Christians and Jews were murderers, and Muslims came along and fortunately saved the world. That is not education, it is indoctrination. Common Core standards present decade after decade of alleged American depravity. Students write essays on American racism, anti-Christian themes, collectivism, and American class warfare. But there's a deafening silence about America's true foundation by Pilgrims and others. There is nothing about American heroes in making America an independent nation. There is nothing about the massive amount of good that has been done throughout American history. Clearly, Common Core includes overt anti-American and anti-Christian philosophical indoctrination. This is only one small part of what makes Common Core part of a diabolical plan to destroy America. I want the entire Common Core program eliminated. And when that's done, then the state can make its own rules, its own, whatever we need to do to have education done. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brent Regan. I'm chairman of the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I'm also chairman of the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee. I'm an inventor and entrepreneur, and I also served on a school board long enough to receive 2 boardmanship awards, so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. My comments today go towards thoroughness, but really more of a global look at it as to what our public schools are supposed to be doing. I also just suggested that our opponents to Common Core tonight wear red, so we see some red shirts out there. I'm a staunch supporter of education, but in the classical sense, which is enlightenment. I stand in opposition to Common Core and any bureaucratic mandate that replaces enlightenment with schooling, as in fish, while failing at the basic mission of our public schools. Common Core claims to teach critical thinking. Let's apply some critical thinking. What is the primary mandate of public education in Idaho? Article 4, Section 1 of the Idaho Constitution says the stability of a republican form of government, depending mainly upon the intelligence of the people, it shall be the duty of the legislature of Idaho to establish and maintain a general, uniform, thorough system of public, free, common schools. Okay? So the primary mandate of public schools is to ensure the stability of a republican form of government, which begs the question, if ensuring the stability of a republican form of government is the reason for creating public schools, can you ensure that stability of something, of anything, if you don't know what it is or how it operates? Show me one current public school curricular, one syllabus that explains what a republican form of government is, how it operates, why it is desirable over other forms of government, and what is the history of it. Our republic did not spring from the ether. Its roots trace back thousands of years. Judeo-Christian morality, Greco-Roman philosophy, Anglo-Saxon law, and direct experience were all brought together by our founders to form a more perfect union. That union has resulted in the most prosperous society in modern times. Shouldn't our children know how we got here and how and why our government works? It is the primary mission of public schools, as stated in our Constitution. We know we are failing because our graduates have not been taught these essential concepts. It's like, would it be acceptable for someone to walk into Burger King and be told they forgot how to make hamburgers, but they hired a consultant to make arugula salads? Would you not wonder why they learned about salads when they can't make a burger? If you're not achieving your primary mission, then anything you do should be evaluated to see if it helps achieve the primary mission. Does Common Core help do the thing that we must do? Clearly it doesn't. Our greatest mathematical achievement of the 20th century, landing a man on the moon, was done without Common Core, and I have no doubt that it would have been impossible had we applied Common Core math at the time. Common Core was sold to our legislators in a pig and a poke. They didn't know what it was when they bought it, and they foolishly bought it. Thousands and thousands of man hours have been spent on standards, training, and compliance, time taken away from the classroom and the limited resources that we have in our schools. Despite this considerable investment, we have nothing significant to show as a result. No gains in metrics, no improvements in scores, nothing tangible. Some emotional claims that, well, we feel better about it, but nothing tangible. It's time to end this failed experiment that is Common Core and return control of our children's education to our teachers and our parents through our local school board. The stability of our republican form of government depends on your actions. Thank you.
We shouldn't be here today, and for a really good reason. And I'm going to tell you why in a bit, but I'm going to lay a little foundation. My mother taught me to read when I was 4, and Mrs. Bullock in 1st and 2nd grade helped further that along. And I've had many good teachers along the way, but added to who I am and what I can do and my abilities. Teachers are what make the difference, and that's what we need to have first and foremost. But since reading apparently is something that the legislature fails to do and bureaucrats and administrators fail to do, I'm going to do a little reading. And it comes from Article 2 of our state constitution, the distribution of powers. The powers of the government of this state are divided into 3 distinct departments: the legislative, executive, and judicial, and no person or collections of persons charged with the exercise of powers properly belonging to one of these departments shall exercise any powers properly belonging to either of the others, except as in this Constitution expressly directed or permitted. The Constitution does not expressly direct or permit the executive branch to make law. I'm happy to have the executive branch make rules and promulgate those which conduct the internal operations of an agency. That's not a problem. But when the rules become laws by moving outside and have the force of law upon the citizenry, that's a lawmaking power which is expressly prohibited in Article 2. And there's another thing that we fail to really understand and read, and Brent touched upon it, and it's Article 9, Section 1. It's the primary motive of what education should be about. The stability of a republican form of government, depending mainly upon the intelligence of the people, it shall be the duty of the legislature, I want to emphasize that, of Idaho to establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free, common schools. My representatives represent Gosling over here, and we have several more representatives here. Those are the people that should be making the laws that direct the agency. And that's how it is supposed to be in our republican form of government. But apparently reading is something that is not very well taught in our modern schools. And reading isn't just putting all the letters together and forming a sentence. It's understanding the meaning of things. And we have lost that meaning. We talk about things like democracy in school, but we don't talk about a republic or what it is. I went through a process of education. By the 11th grade, I left the institution because it no longer served me. I wanted to learn. I was just being housed and managed and warehoused. And I, back in the 70s, we had a lot of interesting things happening, and I went to a free school for half a year in which the teachers sat us down and asked us, what do you want to learn? We made our own curriculum. They found out something to teach us. They taught us to learn. It's been very valuable because I don't stop. And I come from a line of people that don't stop. My grandfather was an elementary education teacher, and he moved on to become the principal. And he retired. And when he got too old to live in the hills and they came down to the retirement home, in his 80s, he went back to college. Learning is a valuable thing, and I commend the teachers. So I'm going to give a simple direction towards this. I'm not going to talk directly about Common Core. We need to get back to where local school boards help those who really matter, who as teachers, to teach. And we need to give them the room to keep people like me in high school by teaching them things that they want to learn that's useful. Thank you.
I'm a retired teacher with a master's degree in education. Recently, while I was substituting for a 5th grade classroom, I noticed a training manual, which I then bought and purchased and started reading, called Common Core Mathematics in a PLC at work. The superintendent said that, in fact, the teachers had been trained in this. So as I was reading, I had been a resource teacher for high ability students. So I was alarmed. Nowhere in the book did it address a student's needs if they had already understood the lesson and wanted to move on or to be challenged. It only discussed how to reiterate the lesson for those struggling students. More alarming was Chapter 5, which recommended the environment in your classroom to reflect a culture of equity. The word equity on that page was there 10 times on the first page. Success for all students, it stated, was achieved with a culture of equity. They also recommended to respond to equity in addressing social justice issues of race, language, gender, and class bias. We all understand that social justice is one of the fundamental tenets of socialism. Why is this in a teacher training manual for helping students with mathematics? My 97-year-old German friend who survived Hitler's rise and fall has something to say about this. She would ask if you know what the word Nazi means. Then she would exclaim, National Socialism. Hitler wanted to extend the Nazi ideology throughout the world. That is called communism. Common Core is not about standards, it's about the testing that pushes the teacher to teach to the test to show student improvement because her job evaluation depends on it. And what is on the test but an ideology of social justice? The standards are psychologically manipulating our students. When I was a teacher, the students would come into my class and show me all the different methods that they had to learn in order to multiply 2- and 3-digit numbers. I'd show them the algorithms for multiplying and dividing that I learned. They were amazed at how easy it was, but later I was admonished for showing them this because they won't really understand what they're doing unless they do it this expanded way, I was told. Really? So I didn't really understand what I was doing? The truth, Common Core is not about improving students' understanding. My district's ISAT scores this year were a dismal 18.8%. I've been called by parents of students to see if I could help because their child did not understand the Common Core math in high school, nor did the teacher. Lastly, please don't tell us that we don't have Common Core since the Idaho core standards are essentially the same. You can see the standards side by side in the link that I gave you, and there are virtually no differences. There is a way to restore our mathematics education. Please look at the key issues in the document that I had the link for. One in particular stands out, and it says that in countries that are top performing, Singapore, Japan, and Finland, they emphasize procedural learning and fluency by 75%. In the United States, we are at 38%. We need to learn from other top performing countries and be willing to be open-minded about it. Thank you.
Anita Perry?
Could you switch your computer to the chapter, the link that explains exactly what you want us to speak to? Thank you.
My name is Anita Perry. I took an interest in what goes on at school board meetings about 3 years ago in the Lake Pend Oreille School District in Sandpoint, and I was appalled. Common Core was in full swing. I had been following Common Core since I first became aware of it approximately in 2011, 2012. A bunch of us citizens met with the superintendent at that time in a public meeting and asked him a whole bunch of questions about it. And the superintendent was amazingly evasive as to a lot of things. How the testing was going to be conducted, when it was going to be publicized, how much it was going to cost. That was important to us because we have levy upon levy and supplemental levies that are constantly getting approved, and we felt helpless. So I actually ran for school board as a result of that, along with 2 others. They were running for vacant seats. We all lost because we were conservative, and the school pulled out all the teachers and their relatives and friends to make sure we didn't win. But anyway, as it turned out, our school district spent $600,000 to revamp the math curriculum for Common Core. They had a team of 46 educators putting this curriculum project together. Now, you might know that Lake Pend Oreille School District has less than 4,000 students. At the time, it probably had more like 3,500. This is a tremendous expense that was being put on us. And of course, levies have gone up by the millions and millions. So we're not happy about that. But most of all, when I saw that Bill Gates himself, from the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, went on record, on video, at a conference, and said that Common Core just wasn't working out like they had intended, and probably it would have to be replaced by something else. It was very flippant and, of no particular concern. So I am thinking, what have we done? And why do we keep going down this road? But like Brent Regan said, we have put him in on the moon. And I don't think we could have done it with this convoluted system of Common Core. Thank you.
Susan Brown.
Hello, Susan Brown. I'm a retired school teacher, grandmother, and a mother. And I'm very concerned about how the school systems are being run today. I am retired because of Common Core. When I saw students that had no way out to be able to excel at any level because the school system was so pegged, and when you have 28 children in a classroom and they're all coming from different backgrounds and different educational levels, it's really hard to be able to take those 2 or 3 that need extra care and help them bring their grades up. With Common Core, that didn't allow us to do that. Every time the administration was coming in our office and looking at everything and getting a little demerit here and demerit there because you're not on this page on this particular time of the day. Well, Susie threw up and Billy had to pee in his pants. I mean, things happen when you're in the real world. Common Core doesn't address any of those things. It's failing our students. It was originally created to dumb down the education level. And the gentleman that actually put it together was not a scholar, had never had anything published prior to this, and doesn't deserve the credit. But more than that, I want you to just look at the real families that struggle out there. When you have them come to your classroom and say, how the heck do I help my child with this math? I don't understand it, it's foreign. And as teachers, that's our passion. We want to be able to help those kids. But when we don't understand it and we can't explain it to somebody else other than, well, that's just the new way that it's being done, the system's broken, and I hope that you fix it. Thank you.
I believe you want me to speak to curriculum and
Anything that is in the rule is stopped.
you don't have that time. I agree with the speakers that have spoken so far, and I'm very upset with Common Core. I'm a retired school teacher. We had standards, and we assessed those standards before Common Core ever came into existence. We got to the moon too, through that educational system. The Common Core does not hone in, it's incomplete, it is time consuming. Kids are having difficulty learning their process, the process is important in Common Core. And I believe that facts are very important. But when the Common Core assess, what they do is assess what the child has learned, not how the child has learned. And if that's indoctrination, you teach what to think, not how to think. And I think that's very dangerous. It was very deceptive that they put Common Core into the rules for the legislature to pass or not pass. We plug into the federal system that way, and if anything changes at the federal regarding Common Core, it is automatically plugged into the state. What happened to state rights there and the local education? It worries me. I've gone through the science, the math, which has already, some people have already spoken to, which is time consuming and ridiculous. The science, they don't even mention inductive and deductive, at least I didn't find it, thinking, and they didn't explain it, they don't teach it. How do you teach science without inductive and deductive reasoning? Photosynthesis is not mentioned, which is a very important thing, especially with global warming, and I'm wondering why. We need to take the lead that Florida took and Georgia and reject Common Core, period, not improve it.
My name's Alan Clayton, 79 years old. I'm a product of our old education system, and I think I got a great education. In 1979, I believe it was, under Jimmy Carter, the federal government decided they're going to have a Department of Education. Ever since we've had the Department of Education run by the federal government, the quality of our education in this country has gone down the tube. Common Core is just the most recent thing that they've foisted on us. The superintendent of the schools came around here a number of years ago and talked like, oh, this was just a state thing and it didn't have anything to do with the federal government. Well, if it doesn't have anything to do with the federal government, how come the federal government spends these millions of dollars on the Department of Education? Our country is founded on Christian principles. Almost every major college, including Harvard, Princeton, and so forth, were formed by different Christian organizations. What they need to teach in our school is our Constitution. No place do they teach a Constitution anymore to kids, and that's what our republic was founded on. Thank you.
I'm Kathleen Clayton. We had a political bus stop come to Sandpoint, and I talked to the superintendent of schools, Shelley Ibarra, and she told me that we weren't teaching Common Core anymore. So I guess we can all rest assured that everything is fine. Wonderful experienced teachers are leaving because they're forced to teach the Common Core curriculum. And I'm worried about the administrative part, the costs. the secrecy and the lies. We're told by our politicians one thing, and then it's not true. Common Core was actually sponsored by business, and it's a curriculum to teach people, the kids, how to work in a job, but it's not necessarily what is best for the student. It takes away local control. It takes away parental autonomy, and there's data privacy concerns. If a child does something bad in 2nd grade, that will follow them every place they go, even if they move to a different school. They're stigmatized and their record follows them. And we've already talked about how the math is very complicated. We had all the heads of the departments come up, and I was talking to the one who was head of the science department. And so if we were talking about global warming, the analogy, I asked him, do you go by the scientific method anymore? He goes, well, we don't really go by the scientific method anymore. That's a little bit outdated. And so, in other words, with global warming, they have a conclusion, and then they set about to prove it. And if you went by the scientific method, you would go through 3 or 4 steps first, and then you would come to a conclusion. Okay, and then I have something from my friend who couldn't come. She said her daughter said that child psychologists feel that it's Common Core is not appropriate for age levels. It's asking them to do things their brains aren't capable of, like in kindergarten or 1st grade. And that there's more problems with that than dumbing them down. I'm just passing on what she said. And so they're expecting little kids to reason at a higher level, and it hurts their self-esteem when they become frustrated, and parents are unable to help. Thank you.
Jake? I didn't hear what you said. Jake Smolkowski.
I have a quick question. If I'm not on the list,
Yeah, how do we get on that list?
There's additional sign up right there on the table.
Of course. My name is Jake Smolkowski. I'm the president of the Post Falls Education Association. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Idaho Education Association. I'm a 4th and 5th grade teacher in Post Falls, Idaho. Today, I'd like to speak in support of the rules regarding thoroughness and in support of the Common Core standards. There's quite a number of reasons for that. I'd like to discuss a little bit about math. We were talking about somebody going to the moon, and the reason that we went to the moon was because of creativity, because of cleverness, and because of a deep understanding of mathematical principles, not teaching by rote. When we teach using the Common Core standards, we are teaching building blocks to help students to have a better understanding. Many of the statements that have been made here and in other hearings that we've had around the state are patently false, completely lack any form of evidence, and do not stand up to the reason, do not stand up to the critical thinking that is taught by the Common Core standards. For example, we've had several people come and say in these meetings that the Idaho Core standards do not teach about our republic. They do not teach about what we have going. I'd like to take a moment to read some of them for you, because I'm not sure that a lot of you have. In 5th grade, Civics and Government, Standard 4, students in grade 5 build an understanding of the foundational principles of the American political system, the organization and formation of the American system of government, that all people in the United States have rights and assume responsibilities, and the evolution of democracy. What does this include? Well, they under goal 4.4, by the end of grade 5, the student will be able to explain how the United States is a republic. That's one of the standards we're talking about. To state the difference between direct democracy and the constitutional republic of today's United States. That is a direct standard. Discuss the concepts of popular sovereignty, majority rule with minority rights, respect for the individual, equality of opportunity, rule of law, and personal liberty. I apologize, I'm shaking right now because I am angry. I am angry that people do not understand. They're not actually talking about the standards. They're talking about some other agenda that has nothing to do with them. Islam has nothing to do with the Common Core standards. A book that was found that says Common Core is not the Common Core standards. If you want to talk about the standards, I am happy to talk about them with you. I'm happy to help educate you about them because I am an educator. If you want to talk about something else, I would propose that you go to another forum. I don't believe that this is appropriate. I don't believe that most of the comments that I've heard in opposition have anything to do with the actual standards.
Want things to get personal or out of hand, so I am going to ask that you address the comments to me and don't address specifically something that someone else may have previously said, because we want to keep this civil. So, and I do appreciate everybody's passion. Next we have Jody Elker. If you could
I have a copy of my comments for you.
Thank you. Make sure it's pronunciation right.
And my shirt identifies as red. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my concerns. My name is Jody Gelker. I'm a resident of Kootenai County and I vote in every election. I am against a top-down educational curriculum, whether it is called Common Core or by any other name. I believe that local control is necessary and paramount for our students to have a quality education. Parents know best what their children should be learning and when it is appropriate for them to learn certain subjects. Federal or even state-level control sets a dangerous precedent. While there may not currently be an intent to set an agenda-driven educational curriculum, no one can guarantee that this power, once ceded to governmental overlords, will not be abused. You may have the best interests of our children in mind, but you will not always be in office. Government regulations have a way of multiplying and expanding. Our political system was designed so that governmental power was at the local level when possible. This allows the citizens the highest level of participation and control and affords the highest freedoms. There is also the strong possibility that the promised federal funding and other carrots will not be forthcoming. I used to work with a member of the Stillicum School District Board that's in Washington State. He said that while only 10% of the district's funding came from the Department of Education, their requirements accounted for 90% of the compliance paperwork. These mandates and administrative hurdles distracted the district from providing the best education for their students as time and efforts went into government reporting requirements. Do not put the same adverse incentives on Idaho schools. Do not force Common Core on Idaho students and families. It is not wanted, it is not needed. Thank you for your attention.
Roger.
Roger Garlock. Okay, I'm gonna stand up here as a parent, and I've heard a lot of people talk about the content, and say it needs to get back to the local level. The fact that I'm talking to a state bureaucrat instead of a teacher lets me know right there that this needs to go. As I was saying, and that I'm up here talking to a bureaucrat instead of a teacher, that lets me know that there's something wrong. Because it doesn't need to get back to the local level, it needs to get back to the teacher level. But I'm having a conversation about content and education to somebody who isn't even at my kid's school. And I talked about this last year. One of the main reasons I'm standing here is for my 10-year-old son, who reads in an 8th grade level and probably has about 25% in mathematics every year since the 2nd grade. And you want to talk about anger, come sit at our house and see how he cries and fights his homework because he can't understand the critical concept. And I don't really care if somebody says, oh, well, down the road he'll have the critical thinking skills. Right now he doesn't. He feels like a failure. He is forced to sit in Title I reading classes even though he reads 3 grade levels above. But his mathematics has become an abstract language art. And I don't get to talk to a teacher about it because they're following their rules. So when I hear a teacher come up here and say, I support this, I ask, could you teach without these standards? Because I believe you can. And I trust that you guys are professionals and you're talented, and I support you in that talent. And I thank you for teaching. So you don't need these standards to do it. You went to school, you guys have big hearts, you give so much of who you are to teach. And so let the teachers teach. Somebody stated the top-down, one-size-fits-all approach to education. It doesn't work. As a parent, I sit here and I see how it doesn't work. If you are having classes, I have 3 college degrees, including master's level. My wife has a master's level degree and postmaster's level certifications. And we have to go to learn 3rd grade math. That's not a problem with me. That is a problem with what is being taught. Because if professionals who have that level of education and dedication to learning and intelligence need to be retaught 3rd grade math is wrong.
Yep. Yes.
Okay? So I would want to talk to a teacher, not a bureaucrat. So this is getting in the way of my relationship with the teachers. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Again, I'll remind people that the purpose of this meeting is to provide me feedback. So please address your comments to me and do not talk about other comments that have been made that is specific to an individual speaker. It's important that we keep this civil, and if it doesn't stay civil, I will end the hearing. We don't want it to get out of control, so. Cindy, good break.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
My name is Cindy Goodbright, My name is Cindy Goodbrake. I'm a parent, I'm a military wife, and I'm a parent first. And it's really hard to do my job. I was very active in my children's education. We moved here across the country. I quit my career. Everybody knows me in the school district. I was active PTO, everything. In 2012, I was gonna go back to school to become a teacher, finish my college. And like Maureen was saying, she was substituting and she was picking up on things and it didn't make sense. My husband was the school resource officer from the school year 2012 to 2013 for Priest River Lamana High School. We started doing a lot of research. At that time, my son, who was 16 right now, he was in 4th or 5th grade. I did not like what I was discovering. We pulled him out of school because we were heckled by the school district because I wanted to opt him out from taking the test. Nobody believed me when I told them what I learned. It was very disturbing, and I was really frustrated because Common Core is not anything that, it's not a curriculum, it's a Nazi way of teaching. And if you don't like that, I don't care. My life was turned upside down. I have spent 5 years researching. It took a toll on my marriage, It took a toll on my relationship with my child that I discovered was attention deficit disorder. How do you teach someone anything when it's extra? When they are required to stop and think harder, when they can't even get through part of the day? Something that discriminates. Math, English, science, English. 7th grade, I allowed him to go back to school. I pulled him out. He went to a private Christian school. We had to reteach him math. You want to talk about crying? I get that. You want to talk about feeling stupid? I get that. I was mad beyond belief. Why do I have to relearn something? Why? I am seriously disturbed by any teacher in this room. You're going to have the nerve to come to me and to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about? First off, I have... well, I'm a little ticked, okay? My father was a teacher. He was a principal. My sister is a teacher right now in Texas. She's thinking about quitting because of all this that I'm talking about. Florida, my sister says it's wonderful. She lives there. The Common Core was taken out. It is data mining. It is discrimination. And who in the heck are you people to tell me that I can't take my kid out of school? I have led meetings with that lady over there, Maureen. I have done seminars with parents across North Idaho. I have worked with my local legislators. I have worked at the state level. I have even talked with Shelley Ibarra myself. What I'm telling you is that you need to get rid of it because it's not good. Everybody has given their points. Why in the heck are you talking about Muslim stuff? Why are you teaching the Muslim religion? Why are you teaching about same-sex, LGBT? You know, I've got plenty of friends that live different lifestyles, but that is my job. And I don't need any superintendent to tell me that they're going to call CPS on me because I have decided to be the parent to take my child out from school, and he's not going to take the test. How dare you? How dare you tell me I have 3 minutes when I have 5 minutes? Fine, 5 years I have spent, and I am done. This is the last meeting I am going to. I have to force myself to come here tonight because I don't care. My son is 16 now, and he's doing great. Why? Because I pulled him out. I am homeschooling him, and he works. Okay? So anybody who is a teacher out here, you want to come to me when this meeting is over? It's probably not a good idea, okay? Because I've waited for 5 years to come to this meeting, and now I don't want to be here. All right. It needs to go. It needs to go.